All right, we are live for week 2, live streaming the NFL betting lines for week 2 for 2020 and building our Twitter bet card, which we did last week as well. Just so happens I also wound up getting this Sunday off of work, so it gave me the opportunity to do the bet card again this week. So this is just going to be like a 4 or 5 minute pre-stream, I guess, if you want to call it. We'll give people a few minutes to show up where I did have to go and change the time on the stream. I just want to make sure, obviously, for anybody that does happen to be in the chat, just want to make sure my audio sounds okay. The video obviously is what it is because it's a laptop webcam, but for anybody who happens to be watching or be listening, we'll be asking a couple of times just to make sure the audio sounds all right. In the meantime, let's take this link. We're going to copy this. We're going to go to our lovely Twitter machine, and we are going to tweet that we are live. I got a new follow on Twitter. That's nice. A digital marketer, yet another one. All right. We are live. Hashtag NFL, hashtag week 2, doing all the fun stuff that, I think I even said this last week, doing all the fun stuff that YouTubers and content creators and everything have to do. Basically have to be masters of hashtags. So we'll go ahead. Cool. We are live. 3 viewers already. Fantastic. So again, this is just a couple minutes of pre-stream just to sort of let a couple of people come in, and then we will take a look at our lines for the week 2 games, how they compare to what I got them at on Tuesday, and putting together a Twitter bet card for week 2. I see I have a couple of people who are watching the stream. Would you guys mind letting me know how does the audio sound? I know the video is what it is. I just want to make sure that the audio sounds okay. So if one of you could just let me know that in the chat box, I would appreciate it. Also making myself a cup of tea as we're in the process of doing this. So we're going to take that out of our cup, move it over to this empty glass because we're classy, and we'll leave that there until we can dump it. Lovely cup of nerd teas. Bridgewater's Finest nerd teas. You know we're a wonderful pair. Had a bit of a coughing fit earlier, so we're drinking some lemon ginger to try and soothe the insides. All right, so we're 10:59 my time, 9:59 Eastern, so let's go ahead and get started. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Of course, today we are fueled by the great folks at Nerd Teas, because technically it is still, nice and early on a Sunday morning where you don't have anything left to do. And we are going to be building our week 2 NFL bet card. So what we're going to be doing is taking a look at the against the spread and over-unders and money lines as they sit right now, compare them to what they were when I got them when I did my show on Tuesday, and using that as the basis, we will be building an official Twitter bet card for week 2 of 2020. Now, for anybody who happened to tune in last week when we did the bet card for week 1, wound up only going 4-4 on those picks, but because of a plus money play here and there, actually finished plus 0.02 units for week 1. So if your units are $100, hey, I made you coffee money. You're welcome. If your units are only $10, I made you, what would that be, 20 cents? So, piggy bank needs something. But we're hoping to do better, obviously have a lot of upward mobility this week. Of course, it could go worse, but that's not going to happen. Once again, I'll just ask anybody that happens to be in the chat, just let me know, does the audio sound okay? Can you hear me loud and clear? As I wait to hopefully get an answer to that, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and get started here. And obviously, like we did last week, I'm going to do the games in order that I did them on the show. And we won't be talking about the Monday Nighter. We're strictly talking about the games that are going to be happening today. Now, on the Thursday Nighter, I did get the against the spread play right. I had the Bengals +6, and they managed to snag a backdoor cover, which is just excellent. Didn't get the total because, man, they scored a lot of points in that game. But at least we got it against the spread. Off to a comfortable little, I think 10-6-1 against the spread to start the season with all the games in week 1 plus the Thursday nighter. So as someone who has historically, struggled a little bit, especially last year, I didn't do very well. So it's nice to be at least a little bit above 500 to kick off the season. Johannes Angusum, I think it's Angusum or Angusum, letting me know the sound is good. Fantastic. Let's get started. So we're going to kick things off with the Chicago Bears and the New York Giants. Now, when this line opened, the Bears, who are the home team in this matchup, opened as 5-point favorites when the line first opened in Vegas. Total opened at 43.5. When I did my show on Tuesday, that -5 line had moved to a -6, and I actually like the New York Giants outright in this football game. I think the Giants win this game, I believe, unless I'm thinking of a totally different game. I believe I took the Giants. I'm lying. I didn't take the Giants. I took the Bears. I don't know what I was thinking. I must have still had Cincinnati on the brain with the upset pick. Sorry. I did take the Bears to win the game. However, that was too many points for me. I'll take the Bears to win, but I don't have a ton of trust for either one of these teams. But to lay 5 points on either one of them, again, was kind of like Cincinnati and Cleveland. Here's my out. It's kind of like Cincinnati and Cleveland. Like Cleveland was favored by 6 points. I don't think there are college teams that Cleveland should be favored by 6 points. So the fact that they were favored by 6 points over any NFL team seemed really weird to me. And this is another one where, Chicago's defense is capable of playing great defense, but I don't necessarily know that I trust them to be a 5-point or a 6-point or anything favored over anybody. So I grabbed the Giants +6 and took over 42. The total had fallen all the way down to 42, so it had dropped 1.5 from opening to when I got it on Tuesday morning. As it sits right now, the total has stayed the same, but Chicago now only favored by 5.5 rather than the 6. So basically, we can take either side of that line if we want to. Like, taking Chicago money line is probably at least a decent amount of juice. Maybe you don't want to grab that because the Giants could certainly come up and win this game. But I think if we want to go with either Giants +5.5 or over on that 42, I don't think it sails over 42. I've got the game 24-20, but I think it does get over a relatively low 40. So what we'll do is we will go ahead, and since that hasn't changed to a cataclysmic degree, we're going to say either the Giants +5.5 or that over 42 could be a possibility to wind up on our bet card. And that's the process. We literally just look at how it opened, where I got it on Tuesday, where it sits now, and we're going to use that as a determining factor. So either the Giants +5.5 or over the 42 in that game could wind up on the card. Let's move on to Atlanta and Dallas. Now, I took Atlanta to upset Seattle last week. That certainly didn't work out. Ton of points in that game, so at least we hit the over. This is another one of those games I think it's going to be very similar. Like, I can see a lot of similarities between the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. So this is a game that, like, I still feel like Atlanta is one of those sneaky teams that's going to pull a number of upsets this season. And in fact, I'm taking the Atlanta Falcons to win this game outright. So this is where we might want to look at a high value money line play, possibly, but let's at least look at the betting lines. When this game opened in Vegas, Dallas opened as 7.5-point favorites, really big favorites, understanding that they are, of course, at home, and Atlanta, not the greatest road team, although they've had some success lately. So Dallas opened as 7.5-point favorites. The total opened at exactly 50 points. When I grabbed it on Tuesday, the line had come all the way down to Dallas -4.5. So in a very short period of time, that line moved a full field goal from -7.5 to -4.5. I still grabbed the +4.5 on Atlanta's side because I like them to win the game outright. The total had also climbed almost as much, 2.5 points, from 50 to 52.5. I grabbed the over there because I'm still expecting like a high 50 in this football game. Now, as the line sits today, the line has moved an additional full point. Dallas only a 3.5 point favorite now, less than half of what they were favored by when this line originally opened. The total has also continued to climb up to 53.5 points. So as we can see, this is not really working in our favor in either direction. The spread is nowhere near as good now when you like the underdog. Before, you could have lost by a full touchdown and still covered. Now they could only lose by as many as 4. Again, I still like Atlanta to win. So what I think we're going to do there, if we take anything about this game at all, what we're going to do is we're going to grab Atlanta on the money line, and we'll take a look at what the odds are on Atlanta money line. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later when we are trying to actually determine what is specifically going to go on our bet card. But I think if we take anything from that game, Atlanta money line would be the way that we're going to wind up going. Johannes is on the opposite side of us. He says, my pick, Cowboys money line. It'll be interesting. We'll take a look and see what the juice is on the Cowboys money line when we are actually building the card. And we'll take a look and we'll see if there's any value to be found there at all, Cowboys money. It's got to be more value now than it was when the line opened. Take another sip of tea. See, this is a relatively simple process. Let's go to Indianapolis now. We're going to go Colts and the Vikings. So Minnesota, the visiting team here. Indianapolis opened this game as a 3-point favorite. Now, I'll let you know, I took Indianapolis to win this game, and I took them to win the game fairly comfortably, 30-23. I was really not impressed on either side of the football from what I saw from the Minnesota Vikings in week 1. Conversely, the Colts, there's absolutely no reason other than Phillip Rivers that they didn't win that game in week 1. They dominated offensively, and the defense was playing well for most of that game. I mean, look, comebacks happen. Gardner Minshew is a magician. So what can you say? So when the line opened, Colts opened as 3-point favorites. Total opened at 47 points. I felt like that total was low because I think we're going to see some fireworks in this game. When I got it on Tuesday, the spread had not moved, and in fact, the spread still hasn't moved, still sitting at Indianapolis -3 right now. The total, however, has gradually been climbing. From the open of 47, on Tuesday, I got it at 48, and right now it sits at 49. So that total now pushing a 50. Look, I have the game at a low 50, so that's great, but there's a lot of volatility in this game. We're going to find out this week if it really is the Chargers that were snake bitten for all this time. And I said this in my show on Tuesday. We're going to find out if it really was the Chargers as a franchise that was snake bitten, or if it's just Phillip Rivers. If Indianapolis gets out to a lead in this game and can't hold it, it might just be Phillip Rivers, and we may have to temper our expectations on what we see from the Colts this year. But that, of course, remains to be seen once the game is actually ongoing. To be perfectly honest, the total's not moving in our direction. The spread is really interesting to me that it hasn't moved at all since the line opened. This feels like a trap situation. It feels like an unreliable situation. I'm going to punt this game entirely. I'm not even going to potentially make any play on this game at all. Not a total, not a spread, not a money line play. We're basically just going to completely forget that this game exists. And again, that's only from our betting perspective. Like, that's not me saying it's not going to be a good game. I'm sure it'll be a good game. So I don't want any fans to be upset when I say we're punting the game entirely. I'm just not going to be putting it on a bet card where I'm trying to make money. Of course, entertainment dollars, entertainment purposes only. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Let's go on to the Jets. Gary Vaynerchuk's New York Jets taking on the San Francisco 49ers. This game is in New York, so at least the Jets do have the benefit of playing in their own building. I can't remember whether New York is letting a small number of fans in the building or not. I don't think so, but this stuff changes on a daily basis, it seems. When this line opened, the Jets were 4-point dogs at home, which seemed like a relatively low number. Man, I wish I could have grabbed that at like -4, -5, somewhere in that range. Jets 4-point dogs. Total opened at 43.5 points. By the time I got to it Tuesday morning, the Niners were favored now by a full touchdown. So that line moved a full field goal towards the San Francisco 49ers as heavy favorites. And the total had crawled down a little bit as well, from 43.5 to 42.5. Now on Tuesday, I grabbed the Niners to cover that full touchdown. That was before the news about George Kittle. So, there's issues there. And of course, Richard Sherman. I think Richard Sherman just got put on the IR. I think he'll be missing for 3 games. So there's a lot of things to take into account when you're trying to do what we're trying to do. But the Niners now favored by a full touchdown, as I said, on the road in New York. The total crawled down a little bit from 43.5 to 42.5. I still grabbed the under on that. I think we're going to have a low-scoring football game, but I did take the Niners to cover -7. Now the Kittle news has come out. Now the Sherman news has come out. But interestingly enough, the spread has not moved. The Niners are still favored by a full touchdown like they were on Tuesday. You would have expected, with significant injury news like that, you would have expected the line to at least move a little bit, but hasn't moved at all. The total has crawled down a little bit more, another full point. It's down to 41.5, and I believe that is the second lowest total that we're going to look at today. Yeah, it's right around the second or third lowest total that we're going to look at today. So obviously a lot of moving parts there, a lot of stuff that, you don't feel like, it doesn't instill a ton of confidence given the circumstances. There's going to be no value to be had taking the Niners on the money line, so we're not going to consider that. If we take anything about this game, I think I can still safely take the under on this one. I don't think taking a spread play is smart there with all the injury news, even though I still like the Niners to cover. I have the game finishing 21-13, so I still have them covering the -7, but that's only 8 points to cover -7. It's a bit of a tenuous cover. So what I think we'll do is, I think if we play anything about that game, we're going to play the under, because, again, I don't expect a ton of points. I think the Niners defense is going to show up in ways they haven't shown up yet this season. So I think taking under 41.5 points there might be the only thing that I would take. Evicencio back from last week. Hey, man, awesome. Thank you so much. Can the Bills beat the Dolphins today? I would say absolutely yes. I think that's definitely going to happen. We will certainly talk about that game, but that is a little ways away because that was one of my platinum, gold, silver, or bronze picks. So that'll be later in the stream. So far, Evicencio, if you weren't here right from the beginning, potentially going to bet Giants +5.5 at Chicago, or potentially bet that game going over 42 points. Potentially going to bet Atlanta on the money line, and potentially going to take the under in Jets Niners. You're all caught up. Next game we're going to look at is the Philadelphia Eagles at home playing host to the LA Rams, and the spread in this one has been really interesting. Let's take a peek in. Oh my God, we got 6 viewers. Fantastic. Hi guys. Thank you so much. Guys and girls, hopefully. So Eagles and Rams. This line opened with the Eagles being 4.5-point favorites at home, which kind of makes sense. Line might be a little bit high, a little juicy, but it makes sense certainly that this line would open with the Eagles being the favorites in their home opener. However, of course, with the injury situation that the Eagles have gone through in week 1, a little bit of uncertainty maybe in their backfield. I know they just recently promoted Josh Adams back up from the practice squad, so there's got to be some injury concerns there. Boston Scott left the game last week. Who knows if Miles Sanders is ready? It seems like there's a lot of uncertainty with the Eagles. That line, by the time I got to it on Tuesday, that opened at Eagles -4.5 with the total being 49, had moved all the way to the Eagles being a 1.5-point underdog. So all kinds of money came in on the Rams to cover somewhere as an underdog, maybe as high as plus 4.5. So by the time I got it on Tuesday, the Rams are now laying a 1.5 on the road as favorites, and the total had fallen by a full field goal all the way down to 46. Johannes in the chat saying, I don't get why the Eagles are the favorites in this line. It's got to be because they're at home. You kind of give the home team a couple of points, you have to assume. Even today when there's not really fans in the stands, just that edge of playing on home field, I guess, would be the only reason why they would be marginal favorites here. But I agree, opening at minus 4.5, that was too juicy. As the line sits right now, Philadelphia are back to being 1.5 favorites. So another huge correction of everyone saying, oh my God, all this money is coming in on the Rams. We got to put some money in now on the Eagles because they're underdogs. And it's pushed it all the way back to the Eagles being favorites by 1.5. The total has fallen by another 0.5 point down to 45.5. This still feels like a really comfortable under. For me, I only have this game 21-10, so that's a low 30. So I still feel great about that total going under the 45.5 points. And since I like the Rams to win outright, we are going to look at a couple of things here once we actually get into looking at the values of some of these plays. So we are going to certainly take a look at the Rams plus 1.5 because that'll be probably minus 110, something like that. We are certainly going to look at under the 45.5 because I liked it to go under 46. So we've only lost a 0.5 point that way. We're also going to take a peek at any kind of value we might be able to get with the Rams money line. We'll see if a money line play on the Rams is plus money. And if it is, so like if it is, sure, we'll probably grab that if it's plus money. If not, we'll probably take the 1.5 on the total. Evicencio, there's also, pick to win the team instead of the point spread. Totally. So we're definitely going to take a peek at the money line there for the Rams and see if it's plus money when the time comes. What you might see in that game is you might see like a minus 115, minus 105, something like that. So wherever we can get the most value on the Rams side, because I like the Rams to win, that's where we'll be going with that, or we'll just grab the under. Let's go to Pittsburgh now. Denver and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh certainly didn't look overly impressive in the first bit of their season opening game on Monday Night Football. Denver didn't look overly great to me. I think it's a slow start for them. Certainly didn't help that they were missing Cortland Sutton, although it definitely looks like Noah Fant is a superstar, a burgeoning superstar in the NFL. But Pittsburgh finally figured it out later on in that game against the Giants. I mean, their run defense was unbelievable against Saquon Barkley, who's one of the top 2 or 3 best backs in this league. So the run defense definitely on point. When the line opened, the Steelers were favorites by 5 points at home. Totally makes sense. Under a touchdown. Got to feel fairly good about that. Total was set at 44. However, by the time I got to it, Tuesday, Denver now underdogs by a full 7. So it's gone up 2 points from minus 5 to minus 7 if you like the Steelers side of things. And the total had come all the way down to 41.5 points. Now, as it sits right now, the spread has not moved since I got it on Tuesday. Denver still 7-point underdogs on the road. Pittsburgh laying the full touchdown at home. But the total has dropped down another full point, all the way down to 40.5. That's a very low total. Football games sneeze and get to 40 points. It's very easy, much easier, I think, than people think. If you have 2 teams that can get at least a little bit of scoring, it takes no time at all to get to 40 points. I think that's the case in this game. I think it's 2 teams that are capable, certainly, of scoring points, even on relatively good defenses on either side. I think if anything here, like I liked Denver to cover +7 when I did the show on Tuesday, but it wasn't a great cover. Both of the teams are on short weeks. There's a lot of volatility, a potential there. So I think I got to punt this game entirely. I don't like that the total is not moving in the direction I want it to. The spread is now a full touchdown. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. We're going to go ahead and punt Denver-Pittsburgh entirely. No play from Pittsburgh or Denver will wind up on the bet card for this week. Let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 8 games left to look at. We're 6 through, so 20 minutes. At least this stream should be a little bit shorter than last week's. Hey, Half Moon's Picks is in the chat as well. My good friend Steven, another longtime member of the NFL YouTube prognosticators community. Please make sure you check out his channel at Half Moon Picks, or Half Moon's Picks, rather, if you haven't checked it out already. He just says Denver at Pittsburgh under 43, but now it's like 40. Exactly. It's like I even liked it at under 41.5, but the line's still moving in the wrong direction. So I think I just got to punt that one entirely. Let's look now at the Bucs and the Panthers. So obviously much was being made about Tom Brady's first game ever in a jersey that was not the New England Patriots. And there was good and bad to be found. I mean, they didn't beat the Saints. I pretty well knew they weren't going to beat the Saints. And again, it's another matchup of what happens when a team with very good players comes up against a very good team. And the very good team, most of the time, is going to come out on top, and that's what we saw with the Saints last week. Of course, it seems to have cost them Michael Thomas, but we don't have to worry about that because, once again, they play on Monday night, so we're not even going to look at that game. The Bucs and the Panthers, I took the Panthers to win last week against the Raiders, and they certainly made things interesting very late in that game. They were up late in that game, and Josh Jacobs just did Josh Jacobs things and, was able to pull the Raiders over the top in that one. I thought offensively, Carolina did a lot of really good things. That defense is abysmal, and we knew it was going to be abysmal. This is another matchup where I think the Bucs on the offensive side are going to be able to look better than they looked last week. I mean, last week they were against, a fairly good defense in the Saints. Not a great defense, but a fairly good defense. They're not going to meet a lot of resistance in the Panthers defense. So high-scoring game, I think, is a certainty here because, again, I think Carolina will be able to put up their points. So when this line opened, the Bucs were 8.5-point favorites at home, which is what they are right now. When I got that on Tuesday, it had actually moved up to 9.5 points. So I actually grabbed Carolina as the 9.5-point underdog. That was too many points for me, and that I think should be basically too many points for anybody in a division game. The total opened at 48. Right now, when I grabbed it on Tuesday, that had gone up by 0.5 point over 48.5, over under 48.5. But as it sits right now, that's dropped another full 1.5 all the way down to 47. I think there's a line here that we can certainly exploit. Half Moon's Picks in the chat again. Yeah, who gives the ball on a 4th and 1 to the fullback when you got Christian McCaffrey? I don't know who passes from the 1-yard line when you got Marshawn Lynch. I mean, ridiculous things happen when you're in the red zone. I think that's the difference between great coaches and coaches that are okay. Like, I mean, that's Matt Rule, right? So, I mean, he's never been a head coach at the NFL level before. And when you get in the red zone, man, you just panic, especially when it's late in the game. You make a decision that, man, I wish I could have that one back. I would do it differently 10 more times out of 10. But the one time when it counted, I just made the wrong decision. And I would think, like you said, when you got Christian McCaffrey, even if the other guys are going to send 8 guys at Christian McCaffrey, I think you take your chances with the best offensive player you have. So I 100% agree. The exploitable line here, look, I like the Panthers to win this game. I took them as an upset yet again, and I realize they're on the road. I realize the Bucs are in their home opener. Tom Brady doesn't like losing. It feels like it's been eons since Tom Brady has lost 2 consecutive games. I don't know when the last time that was. If I have a statistician who's watching the stream who can tell me that, it's been a long time, it feels, since Brady has been on a team that's lost 2 games in a row. So I get it that's like a really heavy underdog play. We're certainly going to look at the Panthers money line because I have to imagine that's a ton of money. But what I think we're going to do here, the real exploitable line is the total. I think we're going to see lots of points in this game, and especially where that total is coming down, but I like the over. That feels like the exploitable line to me. So we will definitely take a peek at Panthers money line, but the real strong play for us here is going to be Panthers Bucks over 47 points. So that's the one we're really going to look at. And because we could go Panthers plus 9.5, but then there's the possibility at least that exists that this could be an absolute blowout. So, maybe that's a little more risky than just simply grabbing the over, but we will definitely take a peek at Panthers money line. Snowy in the chat says, do you live in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia? Yes, I do. That's where Bridgewater's Finest comes from. Nova Scotia, Canada. I've lived here all my life. Next game we're going to look at. I know the internet doesn't like that. The internet doesn't like being like, oh, you're telling them right where they live. Like, if somebody wants to try to get on it, well, right now you can't with COVID, but if somebody wants to get on a plane and fly to Bridgewater and to try and track down a small YouTuber with 1,200 subs, I'm not too concerned about it. But yes, that is where I live. So, Chargers and Kansas City. Obviously, Kansas City looked real good in the season opener. Better chance of hiring Bigfoot to get him. See, there you go. Steven gets it. So, obviously, Chiefs looked real good in the season opener, the NFL season opener against Houston. The Chargers had to kind of nail bite a little bit, but wound up beating the Bengals on some, classic Bengals ridiculousness from week 1. So when this line opened, obviously the Chiefs are going to be the favorite here, even though they're on the road. The Chiefs opened as 5.5 point favorites on the road, so 5.5 point dogs for the hometown Chargers. Total in the game was set at 51.5 points. Now, by the time I got to it on Tuesday, not only had the line moved a full field goal, so instead of the Chargers now being 5.5 point dogs, they are 8.5 point dogs. This is when I got it on Tuesday, and that's what it sits at today. Chargers plus 8.5 at home, but the total had moved all the way down to 47. Lots of people not expecting a lot of points. Water break. Part of what I love about having a filter bottle, it makes all kinds of weird noises. It just makes the game interesting. Oh, Snowy, wondering because I live in Lunenburg. Oh my God, that's so cool. Look at that. 6 degrees of separation. It is a very, very small world. Steven saying it's Chiefs -9 now. So I think, depending on where you get them from, Cover still had it at 8.5, but KC -9 makes total sense. Totals had moved all the way down to 47. Right now it sits at 47.5. So when I grabbed the line on Tuesday and made my picks, I like that game under. I think that's 2 teams that know each other incredibly well. The Chargers offense certainly is not what it was with Phillip Rivers. It will never be as long as Tyrod Taylor is the quarterback. Tyrod Taylor's not a 30-point quarterback. He's a 20-point quarterback. I think the Chargers defense is good enough, and they saw Patrick Mahomes. They've seen Patrick Mahomes enough to kind of know what they're getting themselves into. I liked the under in this game, and since I like the Chiefs to win, there's not going to be any value whatsoever on the money line, I don't think. But there's an exploitable line there where the total has climbed up that extra half point. So what we're going to do is that's another game where all we're going to do is grab the total. We're not going to overthink it. I liked it under 47, which means I like it under 47.5. So the only thing we'll do there is Chiefs and Chargers under the 47.5 point total. Steven saying a Kansas City teaser is plus money. That's true. We haven't really dipped into teasers yet. Maybe as we get later in the season, we could certainly take a look at that. Houston and Baltimore now. Houston did a couple of good things in that Thursday nighter. I didn't think they looked particularly great, but I think they have some potential there. I mean, especially David Johnson played very well. So, I mean, I think that's got to be a trade that they're going to look at like, oh my, thank God, at least he can play. At least we didn't just trade D-Hop for somebody that can't play. So at least they know their run game is going to be all right. Baltimore most certainly did their job. This line opened with the Texans, who are the home team, +6 against the spread. Total opened at 54.5 points. When I got it on Tuesday, Baltimore had moved up a full point to now being a favorite by a full touchdown. And the line had dropped down a full field goal, all the way down from 54.5 to 51.5. So when I grabbed that on Tuesday, I took Baltimore to cover the 7 points, and I took the under because that was very, very close. What did I have the final score there? We have the final score, Baltimore 30, Houston 20. So I've still got it getting to 50 points. So the 51.5, I was like, all right, well, it's a 1.5. I got to make a pick. Go with the under. Right now, with the total sitting at 49.5, there's no margin there whatsoever for me. I guess if I was going to do anything, if I like Baltimore to cover -7, then they're also going to cover -7.5. So the only thing I think we'll be grabbing there, because again, there'll be absolutely no money to be made, way too much juice on Baltimore on the money line. We're going to skip the total entirely. We're going to grab Baltimore minus the 7.5 points because, I mean, look, again, I like them to cover -7. So if they cover -7, they're going to cover 7.5 as well. Steven makes an excellent point too. Last year, they won by 30 plus points. So look, I mean, 7.5, it feels like a relatively comfortable number to cover. So that's what we'll do. We'll grab Baltimore minus the 7.5 points. Seattle and the Patriots is the next game on the docket. And I think this was the last game I looked at on Tuesday. Aside from the Monday Nighter, before I got into my platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks. So this is the last one before we get into those 4 really strong picks that I grabbed at that time. I thought Cam Newton played really well in his Patriots debut. I mean, he didn't throw the ball a ton, but man, he got a bunch done on the ground. The Patriots ran in that football game. I think you're going to see a fairly similar situation here. I think they're going to run a lot on Seattle. That Seattle defense is not as good as it has been by a long shot in years past. So I think the ground game is going to once again play a huge role in the game that we have upcoming today. Seattle opened as 3.5-point favorites. Total in the game was set at 44 when the line first opened. I actually like the Patriots to go into Seattle and upset the Seahawks. I mean, look, I love the Seahawks. Russell Wilson's my dynasty quarterback. I think DK Metcalf is one of the best young wide receivers in football. Chris Carson is perpetually underrated. Steven asks, who will get the most quarterback rushing yards? It's going to be Cam because, Russell's got more weapons to throw to and has more of a propensity to throw the football. So, I mean, I think Cam Newton will definitely get the most rushing yards. I think he'll have more opportunities to run. So I'd have to take Newton between the two of them. And I would have to assume in terms of a betting line, if you're betting one or the other, Newton's probably got to be the favorite in that one. So since I like the Patriots to win, I took them +4 on Tuesday. So the line had moved by the 0.5 point. The total had also climbed up by a full point from 44 to 45. However, I liked the game to go over the 45 points. So the fact that it went up the point, I'm okay with that. Oh my goodness. I don't know how professional streamers do this. 3 to 4 to 5 times a week. It's crazy. My throat would be gone. As it sits right now, Seattle's still 4-point favorites on the line. The total has actually come back down a 0.5 point. So from 45, it's come down to 44.5. This is one of those games where I think we can look at all 3 situations. We can look at the total. We can look at the spread of New England +4. And we can look at New England on the money line if you really, really like them to win. And I do like them to pick up the win in this game. So we're going to be taking a look at all three of those as possibilities when it gets to finding the most value in terms of building our card. So we're going to look at the Patriots money line. We're going to look at the Patriots +4 and look at taking the over on the 44.5. The over is probably the most exploitable line of all of those, but we'll see where the value is. Steven, combined passing and rushing yards for Cam Newton in week 2, over under 262.5. I don't think he hit 200 yards passing in week 1. Boy, if that was 242.5 or even 247.5, I might stick the over on that, but I don't know exactly how much he's going to run, and if he can't go for over 200 passing, I think it's gonna be a little tougher for him to go over on the 262.5 there, Steven. I think I'd have to stick under on it. Okay, platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks from the episode in week 2. We start with Arizona and Washington. So as this line opened, the Cardinals, which is the exact same as they are right now, a full touchdown favorite against the Washington football name TBDs. Total in the game opened at 45.5 points. By the time I got it on Tuesday, it had climbed up a full point to 46.5. I like the opposite side of that. I like this to stay under. I don't think lightning strikes twice for Washington. I don't think they have the offensive talent. They probably have the defensive talent, especially with Chase Young. I think they definitely have the defensive talent to kind of keep Arizona's offense at bay a little bit. I liked this to go under, and I liked it to go under on the 45.5. So if you're going to give me 46.5 points, I think I'd have to stick with that. Now, I certainly don't like Washington to win this game. I do think the 7 points is too many. So I guess we can look at either one here because, look, the ATS hasn't changed since Tuesday and the total hasn't changed since Tuesday. So since I liked them then, you got to imagine with not much changing, I got to still like them now. So I think Washington can cover the +7. So we'll take a look at either one of those, either Washington +7 or the under 46.5. If there's a margin there one way or the other, we'll grab one, or we may wind up grabbing neither of them. Because again, I like to build somewhere between a 6 to 8 pick card. So maybe that's one that winds up getting lopped off at the end. Okay, so Evicencio asked about Buffalo and Miami. Feels like way back in the day. Let's go to that game now. Buffalo and Miami, games in Miami. The line opened with Miami as 3-point dogs at home with the total opening at 43. That ATS very quickly climbed to Buffalo -5.5, which is where it sits on most books right now. The total dropped 2 points down to 41, has since climbed to 42. This is interesting because when I grabbed it on Tuesday, I still took the under. I don't think Miami is going to have a ton of offense in this game, especially considering I haven't gotten an injury update yet. Maybe somebody can look this up for me. Has there been an injury update yet on Devontae Parker? He's obviously their most dangerous offensive weapon. I'm curious as to whether Devontae Parker plays in this game, and even if he does play in the game, he's going to have to be limited. I can't imagine him being at 100% for this game. It's true that Buffalo is going to be down 2 of their best linebackers. Matt Milano's not going to be playing. Tremaine Edmonds is not going to be playing. I still don't think with the secondary that Buffalo has, and they're certainly going to be able to still stuff extra guys in the box and stop the run, I just don't see what Miami's offensive upside is in this game. Buffalo's defense, to me, is too good. So if you're going to give me the same line and you're going to move in my direction on the total, I will simply say, thank you very much. So we can play either side of that. We can play either Buffalo minus the 5.5 points on the road, or we can play the under 42. So we will take a look at both of those things when we go to build our card. I'm just going to take a quick second here and see if I can get a Devontae Parker injury update. Let's see. Here's one from 10 hours ago. Sporting News. What do we got? Cortland Sutton has a good chance of playing this week. Borderline wide receiver 3 if he's active. Yeah, it's still looking like a game time decision for Devontae Parker. Yahoo lists him as questionable, as Steven points out. I just don't see what if Miami's got a roll with Preston Williams as their wide receiver 1, I just don't see where they're going to put up for points. Okay, second to last game we're going to look at, Tennessee and Jacksonville. So this line opened ridiculously. Tennessee laying 11 points at home over a Jacksonville team that, look, they didn't look good for the whole game, but they did get the job done last week and won in week 1. Tennessee opening as 11-point favorites with the total at 42.5. By the time I got to it on Tuesday, Jacksonville were still 9-point dogs, and I took them +9 simply because it's still just too many points for me in a division game, and you're looking at the A.J. Brown situation. Looks like he's not going to play. By the way, if you are someone who plays fantasy football and you have an aptitude for streaming tight ends, Jonnu Smith's season is now. He's probably not still available, but it's worth your while to take a look in any league you're in, see if Jonnu Smith is there. He is a prime streamer for week 2. So just a little fantasy word to the wise. So I took Jacksonville +9 on Tuesday. The total had dropped a little bit at 42. I still liked it to go under. So we're still going to stick under 42, and that's what we did on Tuesday. As of right now, Tennessee only now laying 7.5 points as favorites. However, the total has climbed to 44, which is really interesting to me with A.J. Brown not playing, or if he does wind up being a surprise active, would be probably a decoy or extremely limited. So we liked Jacksonville +9, but I mean, -7.5 is now getting close to that like single touchdown territory. I think Tennessee is more than capable of covering -7.5. So the way we're going to go here, since we like Tennessee to win, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that total, because that total's moved 2 points in my direction since I got it on Tuesday. So I think the only thing we're going to do here is grab the under 44 in Jacksonville, Tennessee, and that feels like a pretty good option for us. Chad, hello from Chad in Regina. Chad is my resident meteorologist. He is my weather expert. He comes in anytime I do a stream saying, "Don't forget about the weather," and I appreciate it. And I did take a peek at the weather. I didn't see a ton that I thought was going to impact the games one way or the other. But we'll take a quick look on covers.com, where I usually grab this kind of information. We'll take a quick look before we actually build the card. Last game we're going to look at, my Green Bay Packers, as you can see right there, playing host to the Detroit Lions, a Detroit Lions team that looks like now they're going to be without Kenny Golladay. Am I right in saying this? That Golladay is either not going to play or is going to be limited in playing, something along those lines. Still haven't gotten much, no Golladay at all, okay. I also still haven't gotten much of an injury update on Kenny Clark. So we're going to take a peek at a Kenny Clark injury update. Nose tackle will not play in week 2 after suffering a groin injury. Okay, so with Kenny Clark not playing, that obviously really hurts the Packers pass rush. And again, like Steven's kind of pointing out here with Detroit, 3 of their defensive backs are not playing. Three of their starting defensive backs are not playing. Macy, rookie first rounder this week, totally. With Aaron Rodgers, that's kind of scary. And I'm honestly surprised that this line has not sort of flown in Green Bay's direction. When it opened -6.5 with a total at 46. When I grabbed it on Tuesday, the Packers were still favored by 6, so it had gone a little bit in Detroit's direction, a little bit of money. The total had flown up by 2.5 points at 48.5. As we sit right now, Packers are still only favored by the 6 points, but the total has climbed up now to 50. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this is still going to fly over 50 points. Johannes asks a good question. Do you have any online betting website? I'm not officially affiliated with any bet websites. Again, as I do this show, it's for entertainment purposes only. But I think actually Half Moon does have an affiliate or two, so it might be a good idea to get in touch with him and see if he has some kind of affiliation code, promo code, something like that. I appreciate the fact that he's in the chat to be able to answer that in real time. So with the Packers still favored -6, I don't see any reason not to take that. So we're going to grab Green Bay -6. That feels like a bit of a layup. And even though the total has moved like 4 points away from us since the line opened, I still like over 50 in that game. So I feel like we can go either direction there, either Packers -6, or we could grab the over on 50 points. So we'll certainly take a look at both of those. So there's all the games. Now we're going to be in the process of building our Twitter bet card. So what we're going to do, because I do want to make Chad happy, so we are going to go to covers.com and we are going to take a peek at anything weather related for any of these football games that we might be looking at. So let's see. We have possibilities there in Miami, Buffalo. So we're going to take a peek here at the weather for Miami, Buffalo. Come on now. Let's open these up in different tabs, see if that helps us out. Tennessee, Jacksonville, Green Bay, Detroit. I think I have something there. Yeah. Philly and the Rams, we have a possibility for. Bucks and Tampa Bay, we have a possibility for. Let's hope I'm still streaming because, man, my internet is really screwing the game up right now. Okay. Looks like Covers might be having some issues, so we might not be able to do that specifically. But let's go back up to the top here and let's try again. Oh yeah, Covers is running really, really, really slow. So here's what I'm going to do with this. Chad, if you have the ability, if there's a weather situation that you know of right off the top of your head that you think could have some kind of impact on one of the games this week, please let me know in the chat. I would really appreciate the ability to look on Covers, but it doesn't look like that's going to be a possibility for us. So if you know of something right off the top of your head, please let me know. In the meantime, we're going to take a look here and we are going to go to my other favorite resource for stuff for the the odds and everything like that, and that is Vegas Insider. VegasInsider.com I find is a tremendous resource looking at Vegas odds, global odds, as well as futures odds, of course, for entertainment purposes only. So what we're going to do, the first game we looked at that we actually kept on our thing was Giants and Chicago. Don't want to sign up for push notifications. So Giants and Chicago, where are you? All right. So the Giants plus 5.5 is what we wound up looking at there, or potentially on over 42. So right now, Giants plus 5.5, we could grab that at -110. Either one of these is going to be -110. So honestly, I still feel like 5.5 points is too many, but 42 is way too low of a total if you have a team, even one team, that might be capable of getting to, say, 21, 25, something like that. I think you could see that just barely squirm over. So I think the way we'll go with that, rather than going Giants plus 5.5, I think we're just going to grab the over in that total. Giants and Bears over 42. I think just to narrow that down from 2 options to 1. Now, a couple of our money line plays that we looked at here. We looked at the Rams, we looked at Carolina, and we looked at the Patriots. So why don't we go and take a peek here at our money line plays, see if there's something that we might want to grab. Kind of as I feared with the Rams and the Eagles, that's a really, really close money line margin either way. The Rams are only plus 105 on the money line, which is not great odds to grab an underdog. Like, it's sure, it is plus money for sure, and I do like them to win. It's not a great margin. It's not a huge money-making margin. I think we might be... Let's put a pin in that one for now. Right now, Carolina, the big value, obviously is on Carolina at plus 325, but we know that that is a massive, massive upset if that were to happen. However, New England, a really reasonable upset pick, is plus 170, which is pretty darn good money. So I think what we'll do in terms of our money line plays, we're certainly going to be adding the Patriots on the money line at plus 170. That's going to be on our bet card for sure. I think YouTube, YouTube would certainly be blocking any kind of direct link, Stephen, because they know it's a known betting website. So they'll definitely be blocking that. Stephen also asked in the chat, play Stafford, Ryan, or Wilson. Boy. I wouldn't play Stafford without his top receiver. I don't know about playing Wilson against the Patriots secondary. I think Matt Ryan might be the play there because, again, I like Atlanta to win that game. And I think if you're going to be playing against any 3 of those secondaries, you might want to play against Dallas the most. I think I'd be starting Matt Ryan, especially if you can stack him. If this is a team where you also have Julio or also have Calvin Ridley or have one of the tight ends, like especially if you can stack Matt Ryan, I would definitely start Ryan. So again, of the money line plays, we're definitely going to be adding the Patriots. That'll be our play out of that game. James Hood, how bad of a shape are the 49ers in today? I don't think they're in terrible shape. I know they don't have Kittle, and I know they don't have Richard Sherman, but I mean, the Jets are down to, 179-year-old Frank Gore at running back. I still think the 49ers win that game based on defense. Really like the under there. So why don't we just go ahead and make that as our play from the Niners-Jets game? We're going to be grabbing under 41.5 points, which isn't a great margin, but to take the under there on a very, very, very low total, but 2 defensively competent teams, I think is going to wind up being the smart play there. That's one that's going to wind up on the bet card. Once again, we're going to be grabbing that probably, I would think, at minus 110. Let's go ahead and take a peek there. San Francisco, where are you? Oh, that's the money line plays. So let's go back here. The total there is at minus 110. So we're just going to go ahead and grab that under 41.5 at minus 110. We'll pop back over to the chat here. San Francisco will win, safe bet. I would probably agree with that as well. Steven says Baltimore and Houston, that there's a chance of rain. So that's interesting. I don't necessarily know that that'll impact Baltimore covering the -7.5. I think they should still be able to cover that comfortably, even if it does rain a little bit, because that's just going to predicate them to run the ball even more. So why don't we grab Baltimore minus the 7.5, covering by just a little bit over the touchdown. We'll take Baltimore minus 7.5 at Houston, and that should also be at -110. We will just go ahead and confirm that. Actually, on a number of books, including MGM, including Stations, including the Westgate Superbook, that's at even money. Okay. Baltimore minus 7.5 is at even money against the spread. That's very interesting. We're especially going to grab that now that we know that that's even money and we don't have to lay any juice on it. We still crossed the hour. Well, we're having more conversation in the chat than we had last week, which is great. Chad says Baltimore safe bet. I think so. So we've got 3 bets now on our bet card. I always like to go with like a minimum of 6. I might try to look for 7 this time specifically, just because with 6 or with 8, you have the chance of what happened last week happening again, where you go even, you go 4-4. I'd like to sink or swim here. I'm either going to be above 500 or I'm going to be below it. So we're going to look for 7 bets specifically. I'm just going to pop back over to the money line odds here one more time, because another money line play we had was the Atlanta Falcons beating Dallas. I do feel genuinely pretty good about that. And Atlanta on the money line are plus 140. So I think what we're going to do, in the spirit of trying to grab plus money where we can find it, I like Atlanta to win the game. Let's take the Falcons plus 140, and let's make that part of this official Twitter bet card. Again, it's 2 underdog plays, but remember, always remember, eternally remember, my rule of 4. And for anyone that's new who hasn't heard this yet, the rule of 4 states that 4 betting underdogs at least will win their game outright in any given week. The rule of 4 was 14-3 last year. 14 of 17 weeks. At least 4 betting underdogs won their games outright. And in some weeks, it was as many as 7 or 8. I mean, some weeks were absolutely crazy. Vegas got it completely wrong with who the favorites were. But there's money to be made week in and week out on betting underdogs. So you want to make sure you got a healthy number of underdogs, both straight up and against the spread, because those underdogs, if they win their games, they're all covering against the spread. So there's definitely something to be said, and it's a talent to be able to pick out good, strong underdog plays. So we now have 2 money line plays, which is the Patriots money line at plus 170 and the Falcons money line at plus 140. I like both of those teams to win outright. We're taking under 41.5 points in the Jets and the Niners, and we're taking Baltimore to cover minus 7.5 on the road in Houston. The underplay is minus 110. Baltimore minus 7.5. We're getting at even money. Go away, WinZip notification. I am not interested in you. All right. So that's the last money line play that we're going to be looking at, because Carolina is just way too much of an underdog play, even though there's huge money there, and there's really not much of a margin on the Rams. So another total, actually there's 2 totals here that I really, really like both of them working out, and that is the over 47 in Carolina, Tampa Bay, as well as the under 47.5 in Kansas City, Los Angeles. I think we're going to grab both of those totals and put both of them on the bet card for this week. Now, both of those, of course, we're going to be getting those at minus 110. Just want to triple check and make sure there's not some weird marginal hoo-ha going on there. Nope. Both are at minus 110. So we will go ahead and we will add both of those. That gives us our 6 picks. So now we just got to find one more. And I think the most confident one that I have in anything that is left here is the Packers covering the -6 at home against Detroit. I'd feel a little less confident about that if the game was in Detroit. But where the game's in Green Bay, I can't expect this Green Bay team that I saw last week not covering -6 against a Detroit team that's like being brought into the game in a wheelchair, because man, it sucks to have that many injuries, to have that level of injury. It's not great. So I think we'll definitely take the Packers to cover the -6 at home against Detroit. We're going to check our chat here for any last minute plays. Pittsburgh and Arizona, safe bets. See, I didn't like Arizona's side of the line. A touchdown feels like too many points for me. I think they win the game, but I had them winning the game by 6. And Pittsburgh, Denver, we punted that game entirely. So I'm gonna have to stay away from that. Isaiah Mortley makes a really good point in the chat. Actually, Atlanta always starts off slow as hell. He used another word. That's true. Atlanta does always start off really slow. The way I'm going to spin that is, especially when we're talking about Moon, who was asking about whether or not to start Matt Ryan in fantasy, that's going to mean a ton of passing in the second half of the game, which is good for me as someone who owns a dynasty share of Calvin Ridley, who had an excellent week 1. I genuinely think Atlanta catches them. They will start slow. That is 100% true. I still just think over the course of a full game, you saw a Mike McCarthy run football team in Dallas in all of its glory in week 1. You're still going to see that in week 2 because that's not going to change. I like Atlanta as the underdog play there, even though, yes, they will start off slow. All right, I think we have now successfully built our Twitter bet card for week 2. We're looking at the Patriots on the money line at plus 170. We're looking at the Falcons on the money line at plus 140. We're looking at under 41.5 points in San Francisco, New York at minus 110. We're looking at Baltimore to cover minus 7.5 points. In Houston at even money. We're looking at over 47 points in Carolina, Tampa Bay at minus 110. We're looking at under 47.5 points in Kansas City, Los Angeles at minus 110. And also at minus 110, we're looking at the Packers minus 6 at home against Detroit. There is our Twitter bet card for week 2. I will be throwing that bet card up on Twitter here in just a couple of moments. And thank you very much for taking the time on this Sunday morning, now dipping into Sunday afternoon where I'm in the Atlantic time zone. For anybody who is watching this who happens to be on the East Coast over the next couple of days and throughout the rest of this hurricane season, I hope you don't get impacted too badly by the system that's coming up the coast now. I think we're going to get hit with it real good, at least in terms of the wind, and we're certainly going to get some rain. So I'm not discounting the possibility that my Tuesday episode may have to push to Wednesday for week 3, because I don't know what my electricity situation is going to look like. But hopefully it won't be too bad. But if anybody's on the East Coast, I wish you well. Hopefully nothing too egregious happens in whatever area you happen to be in. That's it for me. Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. We were fueled, as always, by the great folks at Nerd Teas. Today's blend was lemon ginger, which is certainly helping the throat. Evicencio asks whether you'll see me next week. I probably won't be doing this next week because I know I'll have to work. So unless I stream Saturday night, which is a possibility, I'll have to check my work schedule and see what the deal is. See if I work, like if I work Saturday evening, maybe I could do like a late Saturday night stream rather than streaming it Sunday morning, because then I'll be at work. But fingers crossed, I might be able to do this. And who knows? I mean, we may wind up, if we can figure out some kind of like alternate schedule that way, I might be able to do this every week. So no promises for week 3, but the best bet to figure out whether I'm going to stream or not is going to be to follow me on Twitter, because I always announce the day of or day before that I'm going to be streaming and doing this. So that is at blockbuster_guy on Twitter. It's going to be in the description to this video. It's in the description to any of my videos on my channel. Thank you very much for taking the time to stop by. Lemon Ginger Nerd Teas, nerdteas.ca, promo codes BWFinest. Save yourself some money. Enjoy the games today, and best of luck for any of your bets for your entertainment dollars. See you next time, folks.